Joyce, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you very much for this beautiful opportunity to help our community. I'm very happy and honored to participate. Thank you very much. So we know that for many years, English teaching was based mainly in grammar and translation, possibly because of the method, the grammar and translation method. But today we have this need to use it to teach English in a more holistic approach. So I'd like to share with you some implications that can be used to help our students become global citizens. And the first one is to consider English as a lingua franca. A common language. People have English as a common language between them. They don't share a native language, but yet they want to communicate, they want to integrate within that culture. So they use English, which is becoming increasingly global nowadays. And people from different places can communicate, which is beautiful. Like here is a great example of that. So it is important to consider this in our classrooms too, and to raise our students' curiosity about it. A good way may be show them some statistics of how many people speak English in our countries, how many people need the English language to work or to have access to different kinds of information. So it is very important, and they will be very curious about it. Also, the British Council has some statistics that we can use in our classrooms. Also, it is really, really important to show them that there are different ways of expressing a language. There are different countries which have English as a first language, as a second language, as a foreign language. There are different ways to express that language in different forms. So it is very important to notice also that we can also teach the language in different ways. There is not a perfect way, a perfect approach, and there is not just one approach, and also just not just one way of speaking and using that language. A third point would be this. Consider students' linguistic, multisemiotic, and cultural backgrounds. We should consider what our students bring, what they like, how they are used to reading and writing nowadays, because they're almost all the time connected to the internet and to different pieces of information. So it's very important to consider also what they like, their backgrounds, considering linguistic, multisemiotic, and culture. Another thing, when I say multisemiotic, I'm talking about the different modes of language, which are writing, reading, audio, and etc. Okay, so another point is multiliteracies, which are very languages and media in texts. So we consider this that I have said before, the writing, the pieces of information in different modes, pictures that we see on the internet, news on newspaper, magazines, etc. And also cultural diversity, that we have heard a lot here today, right? So it's also important to consider the different social practices that students have contact with, and also that stimulate writing and reading nowadays. Also, that the experiences they have today are not the same that other people had in the past. So they vary in time and space, what can help them stimulate critical thinking too. The next point would be the cultural awareness, which is very important to encourage students to look not just outside, but mainly inside, to consider their culture. I don't know in the other places, in the other countries, but here in Brazil, it is very common to value a lot what comes from the outside. We like to receive foreign people, we like to learn about different cultures, but what about our own culture? It is very important too. So we should teach our students to value what they have, what they bring in their history, so they become able to talk about their own culture too, not just the culture from the other countries. The next one is the sensitivity for for cultural differences, which are so important too. Sorry. And we have to work in our students the competence to understand the cultural differences, understand why people are behaving in a certain way, why they have that custom, because this will also expand their sense of culture and add a lot of information to what they learn. So it's not just a language, the English language, like we're going to see next. It's everything that we learn about that place, and that makes us feel, make us value what people bring, what they teach to us. And like I said, it's not just the language. Language, as I say, grammar, the language, symbols like phonetic symbols, everything is so important, is vital if we are learning and teaching English. But it's not only this. The language has to be a vehicle for the broader thing that we are learning. So it's very important to consider the culture, implications and aspects of that culture, also how people relate to each other, many times their intention, irony behind what is being said. So it's essential to raise students' awareness for this, that will contribute to the construction of them as citizens and not just as proficient people in a language. So, like I said, it's very important to consider all these aspects, all these implications to teach. And for us to wrap up, it's very important to remember that as teachers, we should make the classroom teaching more inclusive of cultural, linguistic, communicative, and technological diversity. There are so many things we can use in our classrooms and not just focus on the language itself. Here are some references that I've used. Thank you very much. I'm sorry